In this episode of the Longevity Wellness Network's podcast, I sit down with the godfather of biohacking, Dave Asprey. That's right, even if you look in the dictionary under the word biohacking, you'll see his name, Dave Asprey. This episode was very special. We sat down in front of a live studio audience at his Oakville Upgrade Labs location. That's his franchise, the gym, the wellness biohacking space. It's really cutting edge. We discussed all things biohacking, testosterone replacement therapy, psychedelics, the future of longevity and biohacking. Dave truly wears his heart on his sleeve, and you might see him in only 60-second reels on Instagram, and some of his posts are inflammatory, but for good nature. They're trying to get your attention. But in this long format interview, you're really going to get an identity of who Dave is. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He has a global mission and vision, and that is to make the world healthier and happier, and of course, live longer. And most recently from his last book, Work Smarter, Not Harder. I know that you're going to enjoy this episode. I sure did as well. So all you have to do is sit down, listen, and enjoy to the godfather of biohacking, Dave Asprey himself.
Having a new grandson in the family, it's important to keep my health in check.
Doing a whole body MRI gave me a whole comprehensive picture. They looked at my brain, my neck, my spine.
MRI has no radiation. This is the least invasive way to go about doing it. If you wait for things to happen, it might be too late.
I did this whole body MRI. If I was able to catch something, it could extend my life. I'm very healthy and I know it.
To book your scan, visit wholebodymri.ca today, because peace of mind is just a scan away.
Dave Asprey, I'm not going to do the formal introduction. I'll do that in the post-production because you've heard your introduction so many times. You are arguably the grandfather or the father of biohacking. And I still say that you've got a big sort of uphill challenge because we're still kind of part of a small fringe minority.
Here's some interesting facts about, 2011. I wrote the first post about biohacking and created the definition. It took until 2018 for Webster's to add it to the English language as a new word.
Right.
My name's in the dictionary, which is kind of cool. I started the first conference back then in 2011. And I've been running a biohacking conference every year. We had 3,200 people at this one and people from all over the globe. And biohacking, according to industry analysts, is a $63 billion industry. And part of biohacking has been the longevity movement. And I've been in that for longer than there's been biohacking.
Yeah. We're
investing $600 billion a year in longevity, which has never happened in recorded history.
Mm-hmm.
So it's starting to not sound very fringe.
Now, of those dollars being spent, is it a mass populace or is it still a small percentage of people? And that's why I'm saying that it's still kind of a small fringe in a way.
It was a small fringe 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
But I sold 600,000 copies of the Bulletproof Diet in Japan. I just wrote the foreword for LA Biohacker, not Los Angeles, Latin America in the Spanish language. There's millions of people in the Spanish language. I go to Dubai, my books are on the shelves, and I meet with large groups of people there. And it's the same in Singapore and Korea. Like, this is a global movement. It's not as small as people think.
Yeah.
And it's always been 60% women, sometimes 55%, depending on the channel.
Okay.
Right. So this isn't like for rich white bros. And there are people who like to say that. I think they're just angry people because this is for all of us.
Yeah.
As a former 300-pound computer hacker, I've been in Vogue magazine. What are, of all the things that would be unlikely, that's probably more unlikely than being in Men's Fitness with my shirt off, which has also happened.
Sure.
You see my stretch marks and my abs.
Yeah.
So at this point, I think we've crossed out of fringe where a lot of people, probably, I'm going to say 40% of people in the US have heard of biohacking. They don't always know what it is.
Yeah.
But do you know how big that is? Like, we've crossed the chasm of being a fringe where it's a growing movement. and it reflects itself in the language that you hear.
Mm-hmm.
So when you read magazines that say, take control of your health, hack your biology, upgrade yourself, those are Dave Asprey original biohacking
Yes.
terms that penetrated our consciousness,
Mm.
where, oh, you mean I'm in charge of this? If you go back 15 years, stuff just happens to my body, and if something's wrong, I go to the doctor.
Yeah.
So biohackers are breaking the pharmaceutical monopoly,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not doing it through the stuff that I did when I was, say, a vegan, which was profoundly bad for you. And I decided something was supposed to work, and then I kept doing it. Another thing I did, I went to the gym when I weighed 300 pounds. Like, I'm going to lose the weight no matter what. So 6 days a week, 90 minutes a day ought to be enough, right? Half weights, half cardio.
Right.
I did it for 18 months straight. I did not lose 1 inch off my 46-inch pant size.
Now, this was when you were vegan still, correct?
Now, I was at that time, that was actually before I tried being vegan, but I was on a low-fat, low-calorie diet while I was exercising. Right. I was so tired and hungry all the time.
Yeah.
I probably made my thyroid go off from doing that. Like, that's not a good.
You were also on a major quest in your tech development and your business that way, right? And I wanted to talk about that because there's such a big percentage of individuals that have allocated so much time perfecting their craft, not necessarily in health, right? But they've become uber successful. But this is where biohacking is becoming more attractive, because these are people that are on their path, they're on their why, and they want to live longer for that. And I wanted to ask you, what about the people that aren't on their why, that haven't found their highest value? Biohacking isn't really attractive to them. That's why I'm saying that there's still kind of a small percentage, right? What do you think about that?
I go down to subcellular biology to answer that question.
Let's do it.
So inside your cells are these ancient bacteria called mitochondria. And we like to say they're the power plants of the cells we harnessed 2 billion years ago, blah, blah, blah. The reality is they took over our cells. Like, hey, look, a mobile petri dish, let's take over. And they never stop being in charge of us.
Right.
So a huge amount of our behavior, even the way we sense the world, is controlled by ancient bacteria.
Yep.
So what do they really care about? They care about not getting eaten.
Yes.
They care about not starving. So there's fear, there's food. They care about reproduction. There's the other F word.
Yep.
Right. And they care about supporting their community and their environment, which is friends. Those are 4 things. Well, what do we care about most? Let's see, power and sex. Yeah. Because power makes sure you have enough food and that nothing eats you.
Yep.
So these are the primary drivers of all marketing. So you talk to someone who doesn't have a why for biohacking. Do you not want to die? That would be one thing. Do you not want to suffer? That's another thing.
Yeah.
Do you want to be nicer to your kids? Right? And everyone is afraid of aging, because losing bodily autonomy is terrifying. A lot of people learn that because for a brief period, we lost bodily autonomy to the government over the past few years. And that didn't go well for the government, because humans can't live under those conditions.
Right.
So we don't want to lose that, and it's precious. So I can talk to someone who doesn't know what biohacking is and say, do you want more energy? Do you want to like how you look in the mirror?
Yep.
Do you want a libido back?
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'm all in. And they don't have to have a mission.
Yeah.
Right? In fact, the first biohackers, when I started this, hedge fund managers flew me around the world to teach them how to make themselves smarter. That was actually my seed capital when I was starting Bulletproof.
So they can essentially use that knowledge into their business and just
so they make their brains work better.
Of course.
And so these guys weren't in it for a why. They're, how do I be smarter and more focused?
Yep.
Right? How do I get an advantage?
Yeah.
Right? And then it was, strangely, the tech entrepreneurs, because I was writing for people like me. And then it was Hollywood, and it was music artists. I've been backstage with Third Eye Blind and even Roger Waters and Pink Floyd, because they're all doing it because they want an energy on stage.
Yeah.
So the people who need to look good and have working brains are the people who adopted this first. But it turns out your mom wants to look good and have a working brain too.
Of course.
And there's a huge number of people who are just normal people are saying, you know what, I'm tired of feeling like shit.
Yeah.
And they'll do anything for it. I don't think that's French. They used to just think it was inevitable.
Yeah.
And the language of biohacking has said, no, you can do something about it. And it's not just getting a facelift. It's actually something inside your body so that you love your life. I think that's way more accessible.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just this radical notion that you're in charge and you can change things.
Well, it's also teaching people or providing them a path to give them permission and have the claim their identity back, right? Because I think there's, as you just said, like losing their bodily autonomy, that happened. And we saw people in droves who had no problem with that. And there was a smaller percentage of people that objected. So how are you working towards teaching people and sharing people to learn that they can now have permission or give themselves permission to do this?
It goes back to like philosophical stuff around the definition of an inalienable right.
Which, sorry?
Inalienable rights.
Okay.
And I'm a Canadian and an American, right? And we hold these rights, a whole bunch of other words, to be self-evident. And the reality is, if I told you that you didn't have permission to breathe, you would probably punch me in the face if I tried to stop you from breathing.
Yeah.
So if someone says you're not allowed to eat the most nutritious foods for you, the only biological response is to punch them in the face also, but to do it more slowly because it takes longer to starve than it does to not breathe.
Sure.
Right. So the reality is we've always been in charge of feeding ourselves. We've always been in charge of protecting our families.
Yep.
We've always been in charge of taking care of those around us. And the reason things are so crappy sometimes is that our food supply and our environment is to the point that we don't make enough energy. And there's hard numbers on that. 48% of people under age 40 have early onset mitochondrial deficiency. And everyone over age 40 who's not doing an aggressive longevity program, they just make less energy.
Right.
And when you have less energy, you have less willpower. You have less motivation. You have less drive. So you can have these two kinds of peace in the world. One is where there's these profoundly energetic, high vibe people who are choosing to take care of the world and each other because they have the power to do it. And if you try to stop them, they will stop you. And then the other kind of piece is everyone is so exhausted and tired and locked in little cubicles with their bank accounts frozen by a dictator who shall not be named.
What country are we in right now?
Yeah, actually, I think Cuba. There, I doubled down on that one.
Okay, so let's go a little bit nerdy then. How does one increase their mitochondria? Because ultimately, it requires and it takes energy to make energy.
Yeah.
But people are walking around so depleted, they don't think that it's possible. They're just like, ugh.
Yeah.
How can they do that?
Well, in my mid-20s, my tech career was taken off. I had chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. I was so tired all the time. And I would hide it.
Hold on. To the audience and the viewership and the listenership, please pay attention to this because this is going to be a powerful nugget, I guarantee, for people with chronic fatigue.
Well,
okay.
Half the people with chronic fatigue don't even know it. They just think they're tired all the time.
Yeah, that's their accepted baseline.
That was my state. It was only when it got so bad that I'm like, I would fire myself because I can't remember anything. Like this is not good. It was.
That's a powerful statement. I would fire myself.
Yeah. I remember going home going, I hope I can still pay rent because my brain is jacked. And I went to the doctor. Like, I feel like someone's poisoned me. It doesn't work. It's like, maybe you should lose weight. I'm like, how? Maybe you should eat healthy. And instead of going to the gym all the time and I'm doing this. And they looked at me like, liar. And when he told me vitamin C would kill me, I fired him. And I also said, how come you're fat? If your advice is so good, like, what's going on with that? It wasn't like an angry thing, but it was like, and he goes, oh, I don't follow my advice, but if you do, you'll lose weight.
Oh
like, that's because no one can do that, right? And like, oh, if you want to lose weight, just levitate. You're like, well, I don't know how to levitate. Well, it doesn't matter. If you just do it, it's this fanciful thinking, right? So anyhow, you're asking some kind of a question about mitochondria there. So how do we get our energy back?
Yeah.
Well, every day you take 30 pounds of air and some amount of food, and you combine them to make electricity, heat, sex hormones, and all the other things that powers your life.
Right.
Sometimes you can do it with supplements. One of the easiest things that's more challenging up here in Canada is getting control of your circadian biology. It turns out ancient bacteria floating around in the ocean, they need to know what time of day it is so they know what to do. So they look at the angle and color of sunlight,
Right.
They look at the temperature and look at how much food there is. And when you have lights directly overhead that are bright white, you have the warmest temperature and the most food, that must be noon. And
Right.
then when it gets dark and a little bit colder and there's no food, that must be dark.
Yeah.
And they go into their nightly repair process.
Right.
Well, if you eat dinner earlier and go to bed a little earlier, or at least 3 hours between dinner and bed, the quality of sleep per hour will go up dramatically. And I've been monitoring my sleep now for almost 17 years. I used to sleep with a headband that was not Victoria's Secret approved, let's say, but it's because I was such a bad sleeper.
Mm-hmm.
And when you fix your sleep, your mitochondria can come back online. So it's dark enough here in Canada. What that means is at night, you need dimmer switches. You should not have bright white LED lights on in your house
Right.
after the sun goes down. And it may go down at 4:30 like it does for me on Vancouver Island. And at that point, you have dim lights, more candlelight intensity versus these spotlights. Just doing that will radically transform your blood sugar response. The other thing you do to fix your mitochondria, it isn't an overnight fix. You might have heard of rapeseed oil.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I want to let you continue, but I do want to tie that into hormone replacement therapy.
Okay.
And using that as obviously like the binder, the main compound. So continue, and I'll remember that.
I love that we're going to get to talk about that. So rapeseed is the non-politically correct name for canola oil.
Right.
And it's called canola oil, Canada oil. So that's where it came from.
Okay.
So we have canola, soy, corn, safflower, sunflower, all the seed oils.
Yep.
They're unlike the kinds of fats in our body. And in one of my books, I published research about where those fats go when you eat them in the body. And it turns out your white fat, so your love handles, and your brain are the two areas that are most susceptible to taking up these unnatural oils.
Right.
So if you're eating those on a regular basis, like most people who eat processed foods who just don't know better, the half-life of those in your cell membranes is about 2 years.
Jesus.
Yeah. And people say, but how can that be? Guys, one little capsule of fish oil has all these health effects, right? Why wouldn't one little capsule of oxidized seed oils have the same effect? But you're eating French fries soaked in this stuff.
Well, and all of the store shelves are jam-packed with those seed oils.
It's crazy because the membranes in your cells are made of tiny droplets of oil. And your mitochondrial membrane, where you make energy of life, is also made of tiny droplets of oil.
Right.
If you poison it with oils that don't work very well, your body will still make mitochondria. They're just sucky ones. It's like you buy the really cheap like flea market batteries, or you buy the Duracells.
Right.
The same size and shape. One of them holds a charge better than the other, right?
Yeah.
This is going on in your cells. So the thing is, if you were to swap out your bad oils for butter and animal fats, some coconut oil, but not only coconut oil.
Sure.
And I mean do it in a meaningful fashion. I don't mean just, every weekend I eat the fried stuff.
Yeah.
It takes a little while, but you start to feel clarity. Your sex hormones improve. Your skin improves. You have less inflammation. And 2 years later, you stop craving those fats as much.
Yeah.
And this is the path of bulletproof. Tens of millions of people have put butter in their coffee because of me. People have lost millions of pounds on the Bulletproof diet. I'm not with Bulletproof at all anymore. I run Danger Coffee as my new coffee company. But what I found universally, people start doing this thing, and you have to blend it in the coffee. Today I blend my butter in my Danger Coffee, but when you blend it in, it changes the water so that your cells can use it to make energy more effectively, and it gives you the fats that are building blocks of sex hormones and healthy cells. So swap out bad fats for natural animal fats, the kinds we've always eaten. And the further north you are, the more you need to do that.
Yeah. Well,
that means in Canada, we need to be eating pretty much all butter and steak and some fish.
We've been taught, though, and this is where I'll play sort of devil's advocate in a way, but we've been taught and we've been conditioned to believe the people in the white coats. And that's another big challenge, because this is, people still think that holistic and Ayurvedic and naturopathic practitioners and doctors and professionals, it's getting better in the States, but Canada is still a couple steps behind with this. But it's so great that you're here, and this is why the knowledge is so powerful, because it is spreading.
Well, the people in the white coats, if their advice was working, I don't think the last 3 or 4 years would have been like they were.
Right.
And not only that, the last 30 years when obesity and chronic disease has gone through the roof, we've spent literally over that time $1 trillion between the US and Canada on this stuff with zero positive
Research
effect.
and all of these new things. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
And we all know whose pockets that went into. It wasn't ours.
No,
Because
absolutely
we
not.
could have bought a house for everyone in Canada with the kind of money they spent, not
Yeah.
making us healthier.
Yep.
So actually, we probably couldn't have because houses in Canada are so expensive
Oh
right
my
now.
God.
Anyway, I digress. And
yeah.
food.
Okay, let's talk about actually. I want to talk about TRT, hormone replacement
Okay.
therapy. Talk about what an amazing podcast that was on yours a couple episodes ago, where you were discussing with two guys, I forget their names, about the broccoli and the sulforaphane.
Oh yeah, it's the broccoli guys.
Dave, what a great
Was
podcast!
that fun?
I got to go nerdy. You guys really went deep,
Yeah.
right? I wanted to ask you. I'm gonna take a different track, but we'll go back to the hormones. I wanted to ask you, in terms of plant chemicals and lectins and sulforaphane and all those things, some people believe that those are natural antioxidants. I'm wondering, and I heard this, I can't remember where I heard it, but is it plausible that these antioxidants in the plants are actually their defense chemicals like lectins and oxalates and so forth? And when we consume them, they induce our production and secretion of glutathione, making them an antioxidant? Or are some of these compounds true in nature antioxidants?
It's a mix of both. Every compound that you find in a plant is either for protection, energy production, or reproduction.
Okay.
So what that means is the energy production and storage is primarily starch and sugar. Those are pretty darn free of toxins if they're pure starch or pure sugar. Unfortunately, they raise your blood sugar a lot. So there's that. And then what's left? Well, plant proteins are not there as a food source. They are there as infrastructure and mostly for reproduction.
Sure.
Since plants can't run away, they have roots. The only defense they have, remember I talked about how all life wants to do that, don't eat me and eat everything? Well, plants do that
survive,
too.
Of course, sure.
So they cover themselves with barbs and spines, and they cover especially their young ones in toxic chemicals so animals won't eat them.
Yeah.
Because if you eat too many of those plants, you won't have babies. Like that's how Mother Nature keeps balance, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise there'd be no plants,
Mm-hmm.
right? So caffeine. I have caffeine tattooed right here on my arm.
Great pipes, by the way.
Why, thank you. I like to think this Upgrade Lab stuff works.
We're definitely going to be talking about that. Absolutely. So hang tight for the rest of the audience.
So it's crazy, but caffeine is to stop insects. And anyone who says, oh, plant protein is good for you or it's natural, sarin nerve gas comes from beans. It's a plant protein. I don't think you want to be around that. And snake venom isn't really on my menu either. It's an animal protein. So you have to look at what do these each chemical do individually.
Yeah.
Most plants are useful medicinally and nutritionally. You can get by during a famine. That's why humans are around, because when there's not enough animal food, we can eat a bunch of junky carbs.
Yeah.
They'll keep us alive, but they clog up our system.
Right.
And I'm not an anti-carb person. I am not in ketosis all the time. I use ketosis as a cyclical tool.
Yeah.
And I primarily eat herbs because they have the most beneficial compounds. Some of them are direct antioxidants, and most of them in studies are actually prebiotics that feed your gut bacteria and change what they do. In fact, most pharmaceuticals now we're discovering just change your gut bacteria. When they're metabolized, that's what changes things.
Oh, the compounds in these pharmaceuticals, they're
Like
just altering the microbiome,
like-
and then by default, the body's changes and systems change.
Well, the microbiome processes them
Yeah.
into something
Sure.
different than what they were, and
Yeah.
they alter the microbiome. Like metformin, one of the reasons it works is its effect on your gut bacteria.
Right.
And what the gut bacteria do to the metformin. So there's this really complex system that's going on there. And our job as biohackers is to not believe that we know everything about that system. We don't.
Yep.
What we can do is we can say, well, if this works, then my numbers will change. So my commitment, and this is an answer to your question, when I went to the gym for 18 months and didn't lose a pound, at first I thought it's a moral failing from not trying hard enough and eating too much lettuce because there's nothing else left. And I was sitting at a Carl's Jr. It's like Tim Hortons,
Okay.
but with barbecue sauce and onion rings. Anyhow, I'm there with a bunch of friends. And
That's important because you were that guy.
oh yeah, I was in college, and I remember looking at my friends. In fact, I was on the phone with a couple of those friends yesterday, and they're all thin. They're all thin. And I thought to myself, I work out more than all my friends combined, and I eat less than any of them, and I'm the biggest guy here, and I'm not losing weight. It's not working. It wasn't me. It was that I was following bad advice. And because I believed it would work, I beat myself up in the gym.
Yep.
So I just made a commitment. I'm only going to do what works.
Mhm.
I'm going to observe things. And that gave me permission to say, I'm going to do 10 things that are going to lower my blood sugar, or 10 things to lose weight all at the same time. I don't care if 3 of them were a waste of time or money. All I want to do is lose weight.
Yeah.
And once I'm where I want to be, then I'll stop doing some of that stuff and see what comes back.
Sure.
So the just commitment to myself, I'm going to get results. I'm not going to believe anything. I'm going to test everything, and I'm going to track it.
Mhm.
And that sets you free. And what that led to was the creation of this movement. Now we have millions of people who talk about what works, and it's helped to direct research in universities,
Right.
where we're now understanding things about mitochondria. You want them to work better? Go in ketosis in winter, which is good in Canada. Ketosis makes mitochondria work better for a little while,
Mhm.
and then you go out of it, then you go
Yeah.
back in, then you go out of it,
Right.
and you'll have much better performance.
This is there's a lot of individuals in the space that are so married to their philosophies, right? The hardcore carnivores, for example, the hardcore vegans, vegetarians, right? They're just so steadfast, and there's no amount of balance. This is why I like Dr. Cherry Walls so much. I really like her. Do you know? I'm sure you know who she is, right?
I actually presented her with her Lifetime Achievement
Oh
Award
my goodness.
at JJ Virgin's Mind Show. Yeah, Terry and I have been friends for a long time.
I just like her because she really does have a good balance in the way that she approaches things. And she even has kale once in a while. However, she explains that it can be a good form of a hormetic stress, obviously, if you're optimized. What do you think about that?
I think that cyanide is not a hormetic stressor. Neither is lead, neither
Okay.
is mercury.
Right.
So the idea that if something doesn't kill you, makes you stronger is absurd.
Yeah.
Right. You know, getting shot in the shoulder doesn't make you stronger, even if
Right.
it doesn't kill you, right?
Right.
So that kind of thinking where we try to boil things down isn't
So
a
are you
really good
saying
strategy.
are you saying like all kale has those compounds? What if it's organic from your backyard? And I'm
Yeah.
just playing devil's
So
advocate.
here's 2 things about kale. One is, it is the single vegetable that concentrates thallium, the toxic metal, more than any other vegetable.
Okay.
Do you know about thallium?
I've only heard of it.
Okay. Thallium was called the poisoner's poison. They used to use it in Russia to kill people because it disrupts potassium in cells.
Okay.
Now, it's an unknown metal. What's it doing in our environment? Remember when they took lead out of gasoline?
Sure.
What do you think they put in instead?
Petrol? No.
They put thallium in
Oh.
the gas instead of lead. Lead is a noxious toxin. Thallium's even worse. And we have one plant that's the garbage cleanup plant called kale.
Right.
It's meant to be around the salad to make it look pretty. It is not
Yes.
food.
Yeah.
That said, if you want to eat a half a kale leaf to make yourself feel better and maybe change some gut bacteria, it's probably not going to work, but you can.
Yeah.
But if you make a regular practice of spinach, kale, and other high oxalate foods,
Yep.
and especially kale high in thallium,
Yeah.
there's no argument for doing that. Other than I just believe it's going to be good because the Kale Marketing Association spent $6 million telling me it was going to be good.
Right.
Right. Same thing that Big Tobacco did.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's-
is Big Kale a thing? I think we
And,
just
well,
admitted that.
Is big kale. And just because the society is doing something doesn't mean that it's correct. And that's why you're here. That's why we're having this conversation, because I don't eat kale. I know a ton of people that do. And
Here's the deal. I did have like one piece of it that snuck its way into my salad and I didn't die. Right. It's not that it's going to kill you right now, but I will tell you one thing that happened to me because I was a vegan and a raw vegan. Is I wasn't aware enough of plant compounds.
Right.
So when I wrote the Bulletproof Diet, this is 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
The first chapter, you need to watch out for lectins, you need to watch out for oxalates, you need to watch out for phytic acid. These are common things plants use to stop animals from eating them.
Sure.
And the primary mechanism is by causing inflammation or by stealing minerals. But what oxalates do, they don't just steal your minerals, they form razor sharp microscopic crystals that directly damage mitochondria and nerves and lining of your gut and your skin. And they're behind a huge amount of rheumatoid arthritis and other chronic degenerative aging diseases. And they build up over time in the body.
Yeah.
So right now, there was a recent study of, I don't remember the number of people it was, but it was meaningful. On autopsy, 80% or thereabouts of people had calcium oxalate crystals in their thyroid glands. In other words, we're getting this basically calcification of our tissues, which is a hallmark of aging.
Right.
It's driven by plants.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe some plants are good and some plants are bad.
Sure.
So I eat plants that are lower in oxalates.
Yeah.
One mistake I made, I ate a ton of raspberries. Raspberries and spinach are two of the highest oxalate foods. Beets, super beet. No, beets are very high in this, right? And can you eat them? And is it better than starving? Yes. If you eat a high beet diet, even too many sweet potatoes and almonds,
Sure.
this will do the same thing.
Yeah.
If you drink 4 cups of matcha every day, you're upping your dose.
Yeah. And
the lethal dose is 10 grams. And people on green smoothie diets are getting a gram or more a day. And 70% of kidney stones are caused by this compound in plants.
Yeah. Well, and you, this is talking about going full circle. You talked about the decreased or the impaired mitochondrial function, and you just talked about oxalates having a direct impact on mitochondria. Okay, so let's just do an assessment of your life. If you're really tired and you're consuming those, you're going to the green smoothie bar and you're having a kale or spinach lunch, thinking that you're doing good, you need to take a step back and just assess and ask some critical questions.
Yeah.
But it's also a little daunting, and people are self-righteous and they've been conditioned, right?
If you feel the same way about your diet that you feel about your hockey team, you need a therapist.
I used to play hockey and I grew up, right? Big athlete. But yeah, I no longer.
Like, go Oilers, go Carnivore. Yeah. No, it's not a religion, dude. It's fuel for your body. And the only thing that matters is, how do you feel when you're done eating, and 2 hours after, 4 hours after, and a week after, right? And what are the long-term effects of that nutrition? We're doing a better job of looking at very long-term effects. And we're understanding mechanisms of action in a way that's unimaginable 10 years ago. So we just have better data, and you can change things. It doesn't take very long. And I know so many people who are saying, well, I didn't have high cholesterol. Well, yeah, half of people have heart attacks don't have high cholesterol. They have impaired mitochondrial function that leads to all sorts of autoimmune issues that leads to plaque.
Right.
One of the important things in all my books, if there's an understanding about the way our bodies or our minds actually work, there's something free you can do. There's something that's low cost you can do.
Yep.
And here's what the crazy billionaires are doing that it's an example of what's possible.
Yep.
And all of those technologies become cheaper over time.
Sure.
Biohacking isn't about money. It's about knowing what works better, right? So it's not an expensive thing to do. And sometimes there's a reallocation of resources. If you take what you spend at restaurants and spend it on groceries, you can triple the quality of your diet.
Of course.
And cooking is actually kind of fun.
Yeah.
So there's stuff like that.
Sure.
But whatever the decision that anyone listening makes, I promise you it wasn't perfect. There's no such thing as perfection. That's actually what perfection means. It means you could always be better.
Yep.
I sometimes, if I'm at a restaurant and it's not busy, I'll say, oh, is that grass-fed steak? And the waiter will say, yeah. I go, okay, was it grass-finished? They go, yeah. I go, okay, was it raised by monks? And they're like, yeah. I go, were they one-armed monks? I'm like, oh, yes. I go, were they left-handed? Right. There's always another level.
Of course, you can always move the goalpost.
So don't worry about being perfect. Are you getting results? Just be 80% in the right direction, and your body will handle the other 20%. So that self-judgment, the criticism and shame and all that, they're just obstacles. And I'm sure that I did something less than perfect today. I could probably list 25 things. I'm not thinking about them. I'd have to think about it.
Right.
I did them good enough that I've been standing here signing books and talking with people all day long. My brain's on, and I landed last night from a different time zone. I'm flying out tomorrow morning. I have a level of resilience I've never had in my entire life.
Right.
The calendar says I'm 50. The lab tests say I'm in my mid-30s. And if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Yeah.
Literally, I'm the worst case.
how do you want to conclude this interview? I'll give you the mic. You can close it off.
I would say, actually, it's a Henry Miller quote. He says, the goal of life is not to accumulate power, but to radiate it. And it turns out your mitochondria, they make enough ATP for 6 seconds of life. And it's refreshing that often. If we turned off your production, you'd be dead in 6 seconds. So you cannot store that. You cannot save it up, right? But you get to choose how you radiate it.
Yeah.
So your job, if you hear this and you're inspired, learn how to make more energy and learn how to do more good with it. So waste
Radiate
less.
it.
So
Radiate it. Yeah. I always conclude every podcast with this statement for the listenership and the viewership, and of course you as well. In life, we have and we're presented many, many choices. And so thank you for choosing to be with us right now in this moment. I certainly enjoyed it. I hope that you got a lot of value from it. Dave, thank you for paving the way and being a living legend, a pioneer, a trailblazer. And thank you for your purpose in making a global impact. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Canadians are asking 2 questions right now. How do I feel better and how do I live longer? Your search has led you here. 3 days with speakers who've changed lives, vendors with tools that actually work, and real people asking the same questions that you are. Proudly Canadian, the best minds in health, all in one place. And you're invited. Longevity Wellness Expo, Toronto, October 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, the theater at the Great Canadian Casino Resort, Toronto. You've probably heard of methylene blue, and for good reason. Methylene blue is a powerful compound that binds to free radicals. It increases your mitochondrial function. It's even better when you couple it with red light therapy. It's anti-cancer. There's a lot of bad products out there and questionable manufacturers. That's why I use Mitozen. It is founded by Dr. Jonathan Lirance. He's in Sarasota, Florida. And he makes a wide array of different products. This is for your mouth. These are for your eyes. This is for sleep. And again, here is the methylene blue. I use this when I'm traveling. I use this when I'm going to be doing the red light therapy. And again, it's just my way of guaranteeing my body to get enhanced, optimized health when I'm using methylene blue, because it binds to so many free radicals. So that's why I like this product, and I really avoid different products that are made by questionable manufacturing. I always use Mitozen. So Dr. John Lirance, here we are at the 14th annual Dave Asprey Beyond Conference. And I wasn't mentioning this to you, but I'm sure you deal with actually a lot of athletes, right? Professional athletes and so forth. And if you really like sports, you get a little bit starstruck by athletes. I came from an athletic background, so I don't really get starstruck. But I get starstruck from functional medicine pioneers, doctors, trailblazers. I call them living legends. And I was doing some research on methylene blue. I started consuming it, first in Canada, and then I learned that there are some questionable sources, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then so I decided to do research, and I found Dr. John. Now, this is your newest book.
Mm-hmm.
What's the other book called about the methylene blue?
So the first book that I wrote was on melatonin,
Right.
Melatonin Miracle Molecule. And then after that, I wrote a book on my second favorite molecule, which is methylene blue.
How long has it been your favorite miracle molecule, or your second favorite?
Interestingly, so I've been in natural medicine for 30 years.
Right.
And first was chiropractor and chiropractic neurologist. And then I went back to school and got my ND degree.
Mm.
And so through that process, I've seen a lot come and go, right? And years ago, I want to say in maybe the late 1990s maybe, a colleague of mine was doing methylene blue IVs for his father who had Alzheimer's.
Okay.
And it was like shocking because I was going there to his clinic to do IVs on my side, like vitamin C IV.
Sure.
And it was like interesting. And it was a light blue color, you know, that they had, and they were just using like 2 or 3 milligrams in like a whole IV bag.
Right.
And at the time it was shocking. It's like, wow, it's like a dye and it's good for Alzheimer's. It really sounded far out there. And now that I think back on it, it wasn't enough dosage for them to see, because I remember them saying that it wasn't really, they weren't sure if it was working or not. So then I started to follow a scientist. His name's Francisco Gonzalez Lima, and he's pioneered a lot of research using photobiomodulation along with methylene blue for mitochondrial support and so forth. And I listened to some of his podcasts and started reading some of his research.
Right.
And started applying some of these principles in my clinic. And we started utilizing a lot of it for hearing loss and for inner ear, you know, where we would use laser therapy and also administering methylene blue for enhancing that. So if you think about methylene blue is kind of like a brilliant blue. So what's happening is it's reflecting blue and it's absorbing red.
Reflecting blue, absorbing red. Okay.
Yeah. So all colors work that way, where it's absorbing what you don't see.
Right.
Right. So photons that absorb through the skin and into the body are in the infrared and red spectrum. Those otherwise they are quickly absorbed by red blood cells. You know, your red blood cells just absorb it, so very little of it gets deeper into the body.
Ah, okay.
And so when you start getting into things like lasers, the reason that they penetrate better is because the alignment of the photons is like very linear.
Right.
Right?
It's bypassing those red blood cells and it's just going right in.
Well, we're like LEDs are more scattered, like with like, you know, the Tom Gerber's type of.
Yeah.
Those LEDs are like random and scattered, so they bounce around. Where lasers can penetrate a lot deeper. So you have to make up for that with more photons to get deeper, right?
Okay.
And higher intensity. So, so yeah, that combination. We've also used it with some prostate protocols, some brain protocols that we utilize with intravenous stem cells, and then using what we call the Helios with transcranial.
Right.
Intranasal photobiomodulation is amazing.
That's right. In your book, you've got I see the pictures, and you can put a red up in there, and you've got the red light being applied. So this is why I'm so amazed with all this, because as a consumer, I'm reading about this, right? And you think, you're like, wow, theoretically, is this really a thing? Can it really be done? And now here you are, you've been practicing for 30 plus years, and you're doing it at your clinic.
Yeah.
You're seeing people from around the world come to you and utilize this magic of modern medicine, but at the same time, it's also been used for a long time.
Yes.
So what does it mean for individuals who are dealing with chronic challenges and they've tried the Western conventional medical model? There's new alternatives.
Yes.
So what are you doing with that, and how are people utilizing your technologies and your modalities that are totally becoming outliers, but you're seeing it every day?
Yeah. Well, it's a great question, and I think anybody that when you look at a question like that, you know, the basic premise has to be like, you know, who's the master healer, right? It's within, right? We have the healer within. Instead of counting on big pharma or some other outside source that's going to come up with some sort of a molecule that's going to cure a certain disease, it's this idea that the body is self-healing, self-regulating, self-monitoring, you know, self-adjusting. It monitors the hormones. I mean, it's the chemistry. All of it is done with this internal wisdom. The wisdom needs energy to express itself. So when we don't have the life force to drive those adaptation responses, because life is all about stress and adaptation.
Right.
And that without that, you know, they call that hormesis. So gravity is a hormetic stress,
Sure.
right? So we know when astronauts go into space, they come back and they have osteoporosis and a lot of loss of collagen in their tendons and stuff like that. Is because that stress is signaling for you to maintain a certain level of strength, right? Same thing with resistive training. Oxygen carbon dioxide, sun, photobiomodulation. All these things are like natural stressors.
Yeah.
And the body has to adapt to those stressors. And when they don't, oftentimes it's too much of that stressor that exceeds the ability of the system to adapt to it. So when you get into things like melatonin and methylene blue, and even light and photons, these are ways that enhance our body's energy producing systems through the mitochondria. And so the healing is not done as like, okay, this is actually fixing or curing something, but it's just enhancing what the body would naturally want to do if it didn't have interference. You know, one of my mentors many years ago said, the body needs no help, it just needs no interference.
I love that. Actually, I was with Barbara O'Neill. Do you know who that is?
I've heard the name before.
The little cute old New Zealand or Australia? Australia. And she said the same thing. She said, if you just remove the interference, the body wants to heal. Okay. If we're to just tap on that really quick, there's so much interference though. So how can someone, from basics, what type of interference can they do to remove just so they can start to allow healing to happen?
Oh, good question. Well, there's some simple principles that I think anybody can do at home. And one concept is taking care of your doorways, right? So this interface between the outside world and the inside world is this battle that happens.
No kidding.
So that you have the nasal passage, the oral, and that includes the jaw and the jawbone, and with certain dental procedures can be problematic. And then the microbiome, the skin, the ears, the eyes. These are what I call doorways, right? And
you didn't mention this in your other book.
I did.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay, so bad reading on my end.
It's my Ganesh. Did you reading about the Ganesh?
Yeah.
So Ganesh is the Hindu god. He's the lord of doorways.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And so that's why I kind of like that idea of taking care of your doorways, which is my Ganesh protocol.
That's right. Okay, now it's all coming back to me.
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
Well, so what these are barriers, right? So we have a lot of research is starting to happen with the glycocalyx, which is the substances that make up our barriers, right? So we have barriers around all of our organs, our mucous membranes, our gut lining, all of these barriers become problematic when they start to break down. Like our blood-brain barrier is a big deal.
Sure.
So we have so many influences that are stressing the system, that are breaking down our barriers, which then are allowing things like bacteria, viruses, mold, and the toxins that they produce, which are called endotoxins, to enter, extremely inflammatory. And I would almost argue they're at the root of almost all diseases. So mitigating some of these stressors with nasal hygiene, oral hygiene.
Not Listerine.
Yeah. Well, have you ever tried our Bocazen?
No.
If I have it. So this has got oregano, it's got fennel, it's got clove, it's got cinnamon.
Antibacterial, antiparasitic, antifungal properties.
Linalool. It's spicy. Here.
Okay.
Mouth. I'll do it with you. Try it.
Oh, it's nice. Let me see what I'm tasting first.
And I like to move it all around my gums. And in the morning, I put it by my toothbrush. I put this in my mouth and then I floss it in between my teeth. Some people also use it and do
I can see this
oil
being
pulling.
I was just going to say, you put in your coconut oil.
It's great to travel with. It helps you from getting sick. And it's kind of similar to this. This is called Glutastat, which is the first product that I ever developed. And it's got essential oils, oregano, clove, sage, bay leaf, thyme, red thyme, linalool again, glutathione, NAC, and a little silver. And so it's basically, the essential oils break up biofilm, which is what a lot of microbes use to stick to your mucous membrane, especially in your nose.
Yeah.
And then that's like flypaper. So if you walk into a room and somebody's sick and they cough, there's particulate in the air, and some people get sick and some people don't. Well, a lot of it has to do with the amount of biofilm that people may maintain in their nasal passage. So this cuts that down, and it's antimicrobial. So using this like daily can be really good. Most of our patients that we start working with, I found I do a 30-day sinus protocol with glutastat, and it almost all conditions that I see, autoimmune, cancer, Lyme, mold, will feel some better, 10, 20% better, just by treating their sinuses.
I don't want to keep on going too long, but I want to reference one of my mentors, and he said, when you embark on healing and helping people, you're doing essentially God's work. Now, whether we want to use God or the spirit or the universe, I just want to humbly say thank you for doing God's work, because you are trailblazing and you're using such creative, original ideas, and you're helping people around the world. And
are they really original ideas though?
Well, you're innovating them. How about that?
Yeah. Well, God's working through me.
Yeah. So I just want to say thank you for your service, and I'm so humbled and happy to be here right now.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, so we'll see you guys on the next episode, but this is amazing. You definitely want to give Dr. John a follow. Newest book, where is it available?
Amazon or mitozen.com.
Yeah. And then get part of the membership of the mitozen.com, because that way you can get these products plus so many more amazing products.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Our bodies depend on the health of our cells, especially our stem cells. Stem cells are responsible for the production of everything that makes up our bodies. And science shows that when we have lower levels of stem cells, our body's ability to heal is greatly reduced. That's why I have aligned myself with Stemergen. Christian Drapeau, the author of Cracking the Stem Cell Code, he is a French-Canadian from Montreal. He is the founder of Stemergen. These products are scientifically proven to increase our body's own production of stem cells, as well as releasing even more stem cells to circulate within our body. Therefore, when you have more stem cells circulating in your body's ability to heal is greatly enhanced, as well as you become more optimized. This product, hands down, is revolutionizing the way that we see and use our own magical ingredients to produce our own stem cells, enhanced with phytonutrients and compounds that increase the production of our own stem cells. This right here is a game changer, and that's why I've aligned myself with Stemergen. Are you a professional in the health and wellness space? Maybe you are a clinic owner, a practitioner, a natural healer, or you're in charge of purchasing products, or you're a distributor, and your business is built all around biohacking and longevity or wellness or even precision health. Friday, October the 2nd, Longevity Wellness Expo is designed specifically for you. This is going to be our professionals and practitioners event. It's a private B2B evening exclusive to the industry before the doors open to the general public. You're going to get a chance to meet clinic owners, founders, innovators, and health leaders from across the country. Additionally, you're going to get a sneak peek at all of the vendors before the crowds arrive. You're going to see the latest in all of the health products and hear 3 business-focused keynote presentations specifically designed for practitioners and wellness entrepreneurs to grow your business. We're excited because this is where partnerships begin and distribution deals can happen. Your ticket also includes full access to the weekend for the whole expo. Friday night runs from 5 p.m. until 9 p.m. at the theater at the Great Canadian Toronto. This is your personal invitation to shape the future of health in Canada. And that wraps up today's episode on the Longevity Wellness Podcast. Big shout out to Dave Asprey, the godfather of biohacking. We wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for you. So thank you for your contribution to humanity in the world. We're very, very fortunate to have you, Dave. So thank you so much. And also a big shout out and thank you to our sponsors for today's episode. If you see these products, just know that I personally use them. And if you're looking for different services or products or things to make you better, live stronger, live healthier, happier, stronger, rest assured, be confident that I use them. And if I didn't use them, and if I didn't feel as though they could help you, they wouldn't be on the podcast. So you can use them as well. All that being said, hope you enjoyed today's episode. And also, tickets are available right now on the Longevity Wellness website, www.longevitywellnessexpo.ca. The show is soon, October the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. All you have to do is get yourself a ticket, and we'll see you at the expo.